Jason, welcome back to the No Name Podcast.
The no name. We need a name for this sucker.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Maybe someday we'll name it. But essentially, this is podcast two for us, right?
That's right.
And I think the topic of today is scaling is hard.
Yeah, especially right now. People are challenged for sure, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it is challenged. We have a lot of clients, that have some unique challenges that we're working through. And we're talking to a lot of people. And when I talk to Kyle, our sales guy, he's kind of hitting me with a lot of the challenges that these customers are coming up with. And some of them are really unique. Like, I'm gonna give you a quick example, just so we kick this off. Is he had a conversation with a guy just the other day, and I think it was yesterday, and he said that if you guys improved, those that don't know, is that we have a lead management company. Essentially, we take all a client's lead flow, take all their phone calls, all their leads, all their internet leads, no matter where they come through. They come in. We have CRMs and software and real humans that live here in the US that call, qualify, book, schedule, remind, and optimize that lead flow so that way you can squeeze the greatest ROAS out of your marketing spend. That's what we do. And we typically can double or triple revenue from anybody else's. So that's kind of what we do. So
And you
all of our
and you
clients.
guys do a great job, by the way.
Thank you. So all of our clients potential new clients who are coming in, that's the conversation that our sales team is having with them, right? Is how do we optimize your lead flow? And so here's a unique problem. If you guys optimized my lead flow and got me more appointments, I couldn't fulfill. My biggest problem right now is that I know I'm doing a crappy job of managing our leads, and I know we're losing a lot of opportunity, but if you guys improved it, I wouldn't be able to fulfill it. I wouldn't be able to install. I don't know if it was a contractor or a flooring contractor. I don't know who it was, but I wouldn't be able to fulfill. So I need to solve that problem first. And that's a unique problem to solve. It's like,
So
where are you spending your time, right, Jason?
it's so interesting you say this because it's literally one of the first questions that I ask clients is let's pretend for a minute that the work that we're doing together is going to be wildly successful.
Mhm.
And 12 months from now, I've doubled your business, right? So could you even manage that? Like, do you have the infrastructure in place and the ability to manage double the revenue? And almost
Yeah.
in every single case, they go, oh, you know what? I don't think we could. We would need to hire this person. We need to hire this person. They don't have the infrastructure in place. They want to grow. And well, you and I talk about this all the time. It's usually because these owner operators tend to be, they don't want to relinquish control. They want to do everything themselves, right? But
Yeah. Do you remember Greg Whitman?
of course,
Of course, the GOAT.
the goat.
The GOAT. I had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago.
You did.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Surprisingly enough, my sister set me up with a call with him. He's just retired.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know
For
him?
the second time. He retired, sort of retired a couple of years ago, left one of the largest flooring manufacturers, was, top 5 sales guy probably for 15 years running. And
Five, if not the top.
yeah,
Just
and
let
many
everybody know.
many years
Yeah.
he was the top guy.
Yeah.
But and then went to work for one of the major flooring contractors in the Seattle area as sort of a consultant kind of a thing. And now I think he's like officially retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice guy. I've actually never met him. My sister works for him.
Oh,
Yeah. And the reason why I just brought this back up is you just reminded me of that conversation I had. She set us up for combo. Half of what I do is meet with people. And he was like, how do you double somebody's business? It's like, what does that do what does that do to them internally? Because we're talking about one of our big clients that we've been with us for a few years is we helped them grow by 60% last year. And he's like, what does that do to their business? And it's just, yeah, it just depends on what you have access to for fulfillment and sales and training and processes and like how fast can you execute?
well, I thought it was interesting digging into your business and spending time with your team, how often it comes up that you have these owners that have brought you guys in that have the best of intention, but then when it comes time to doing the work that they need to do, they can be a little bit tardy in follow up, and they're not necessarily using the CRM the way that you've trained them to do. So there's little nuances, And it's so funny. It's like you've spent all this time and energy and money bringing in this fantastic group, and then you don't do these little. And I'm telling you, it all comes back to they're busy being busy instead of busy growing their business. And it's like, so would you? Okay, here's a good question. I mean, you interview clients all the time. I think there's a case to be made that there are some businesses that aren't ready for you, that they're too small. That it's not too small in terms of revenue. Their team, the main operator is too fixated on the day-to-day aspects of the business that he can't take what you do and really kind of wring all the benefit out of it because he's too much in the weeds.
That's a really good point. And I'm actually, let's elaborate on that, right? Because I'm actually going to say that anybody can be ready for us, right? It depends on the amount of opportunity that's coming in the door. If you don't have enough opportunity coming in the door, then no, it's not a good fit because it's not like I can't optimize nothing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I kind of have a magic number that is right around, let's just say we like to get started at least 20, 25 leads or opportunities coming in a month, right? And then have a plan to scale and grow that month over month over month because we are going to plug them in and help them grow fast, right? But so below that, yeah, they're probably too, but the system will scale, right? Because the systems that we implement in businesses are typically stuff that $10 to $20 million companies have figured out and they're implementing inside their company, right? So we could take a smaller company and plug them into it and give them, it'll be a fraction of the cost. The analogy that I like to use is the old shared fitness model, like CrossFit or functional fitness, right? Or going and hiring a Hollywood trainer, right? So if you want to go hire a Hollywood trainer, you're going to pay $100,000 a year for that guy to follow you around and do your diet, do your right. Versus you could share that cost with somebody else and pay $150 a month for it, right? So that's kind of what our business is. It's more the shared model. Is we can have a set of U.S. based setters that work for multiple accounts and act on their behalf as if they're an executive assistant right here in the U.S. But they're going to share the cost of that person. If they wanted them exclusively, you're going to pay $10,000 a month for that program versus just a fraction of that with the shared model, which is what we do. So we give the smaller companies access to the same optimization systems that the bigger companies grew into and created. Make sense?
Oh, I have no doubt. I think obviously they need leads so that you can set the appointments and give them the tools to grow. But if they don't take what you do and then follow through with it, I mean, we worked with one of your clients together and we saw that like you were passing along, regular qualified leads and nobody was doing
a favorite client for
yeah,
us. Like we
right.
really liked that guy.
Yeah.
Testimonial videos and everything. Yeah.
And couldn't get out of his own way and
Yeah.
had to stick handle everything himself because he
Yeah.
couldn't relinquish control, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
To
so
elaborate on that though, like you made a really great point. I would say that, in the three pillar process of any home service company trying to scale is your lead flow, lead management, and sales process. Those three pillars we put at the top and say those are super important. They all work together. Now in the lead flow part, I think that everybody thinks they're ready for a marketing company, and like we're not a marketing company, but everybody thinks they're ready for marketing company. But most of the people that start and fail or start and don't fulfill and come through with marketing companies think they're ready, and I don't think they should be ready for a while. And everybody makes that step too early, ends up wasting money and gets a bad taste in their mouth. I'm not saying the marketing companies are not at fault sometimes. I think marketing companies are taking on clients they shouldn't be taking on.
interesting.
And that's why their churn rate is through the roof.
And unfortunately, it gives the whole industry a bad name because how many customers have you talked to that have said, "Oh, I tried Google Ads and I did this and nothing came from it. I just spent a bunch of money and I never got anything out of it." And it's like, yeah, because maybe it was a bit early, right? You didn't have the ability you didn't have the follow-up ability. You didn't have somebody like yourself and your team, right, going through and qualifying these leads. So I'll tell you right now, in the home services business, you and I both know the vast majority of the people that are attracted to that business were probably guys and gals that were on the tools for a certain period of their life, right? They're highly efficient and highly skilled on the operational side of the business. And then they get off the tools, they start their own company, and they don't have the background or the skill set on the sales and the marketing side. And they discount how that's a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
Right. And, I see people getting bogged down with this all the time. And they can't make that switch because they're doers. They're elbows deep in the muck, and they want to get shit done. And it's like, yeah, but like are you transitioning from a business owner to a CEO, or do you always want to be the founder, business owner? Right. Well, and selfishly, it's good for my business because that's what I can do. I can come in and do those things for them, right? But
let's do this. Let's get some valuable advice to maybe the category of where you are as far as business revenue. So let's just say that you're $500,000 to $1 million in revenue as a contractor, home service company. Doesn't really matter. What should they be focusing on in Europe? And everybody's situation is vastly different, but there are some primary categories that each stage of business can focus on to get themselves to the next plateau.
Well, personally, I'm always an advocate of starting with the end in mind, right? If you're not thinking about your business in 5-year chunks and 5-year increments, you're always going to be in crisis mode and just trying to survive the day and the week and, get payroll for the month. And then you're kind of like, you never get out of that perpetual sort of panic mode, right? So if you're not thinking about, okay, well, have I sat down and have I created a 5-year plan? And where do I want my business to be 5 years from now? So it doesn't really matter where I am now. It's like, where do I realistically see my business in 5 years? And then work backwards from there. So if I want to be here in 5 years, where would I need to be in 3 years to make that 5-year plan viable and realistic? And then work back from there. Where do I need to be 18 months from now to make the 3-year part of the plan realistic? So the 5-year plan and you break it all the way down to the smallest little components possible. That's how a CEO operates. Like, how does somebody run Apple, IBM, these giant corporations? Like, people always say, what do CEOs do? Why do they make all that money? It's because they're thinking strategically. They're not getting themselves caught up in the weeds. They have people around them that do the day-to-day part of the business, and they're strategizing on the long-term part of the business. And then, so you might say, well, how does that relate to a guy driving around in his truck running an HVAC company, right? That doesn't apply. I would argue it does. It's like,
yeah. So let's think about this. Let's like the guy running around a small HVAC company, maybe doing $1 million, right? Let's say the phone's ringing, he's answered, he's doing sheet metal, right? He's got somebody at the back doing books or something like that, and he's trying to juggle. What's the first thing that he needs to change in his business, do you think?
I think the first thing you need to do is prepare yourself for your first employee. So what would be the right first employee? Is it a bookkeeper? Is it another sales guy? Is it another operator? Somebody so that you can get off the tools and now you're transitioning from the tools to, so you need to determine what's going to allow you to scale and grow your business first.
How about this? What if we tied this back to strengths and weaknesses? What's your superpower? Is your superpower sheet metal? Or is your superpower sales? Or is your superpower, I don't know, something else? Should they, and we're just spitballing here. This is definitely not scripted, but like I kind of feel like, hey, if my superpower is sales, my first employee might be somebody to help me fulfill orders.
Right. Somebody that doesn't have the exact same skill set as you, somebody that complements it so that you're maximizing your time, and you're very good at this. You're constantly reminding me of this. Is like, if I can bring somebody in and pay them to do something that I'm not an expert on, and they can do it in twice the speed, then it's worth every penny, because now you can focus all your time and energy on the things that your superpower allows you to do because you're world class at it, right?
Yeah.
So like in my case, I'm not an SEO guy, right? So I would never try to take that on myself. I would bring in an outside expert.
Yeah.
I would bring
Yeah,
some,
totally.
right? So but again, I think from a small operator perspective is like what does that first employee look like? How is that going to allow me to scale to the next size? So how do I go from 500 grand to 750 grand? Well, it means that I got to make more sales calls, which means I need to pull myself out of this portion of the business so I have time to make more sales calls, right? If that's my strength. If my strength is the operational side of the business, well, then maybe my first hire should be a sales guy so that I don't have to focus on the part of the business that I stink at, right?
Yeah. And I think that's I think that's a first kind of a seed point for somebody. Like, okay, what's my strengths? If I was to, keep one job in this company, fast forward from 5 years from now, what would be that one job that I would keep, right? So in my case, if it's sales, right? Like I'm going to keep that job. So what's the first job that I would hire out that I hate doing that I need to be like, I need somebody to be better than me? Let's just say that's fulfillment or installation. Most of these guys, it's not going to be that way, but we'll use this example first. So the first idea is identifying what's that first role. Like how much is it going to cost me to fulfill that role, right? And the other thing is like, hey, I really do believe there's two ways that this guy doing $1 million in revenue annually, right? There's two ways that he can start, right? You can build the plane on the ground, or you build the plane while you're flying. But I would highly recommend, with the little time that you have, is to do some sort of documentation of your process. This is how I do things. This is step one. This is step two. This is step three. Because this is how you got to your first million, right?
I was just going to say that, when you're a single person operator and there's nobody to offload those things to, then it might seem like well, why would I write all this down? Why would I create a playbook for my business when I'm a team of one? But
So you have something to improve.
yeah, and you have something to improve. And when you do start hiring people, the process is already sort of in place, right? You and I were talking about this earlier. This is maybe sort of a couple of steps down the road, but I actually think that most business owners never actually become CEOs of their company. And it's not because they don't have the ability to do it. It's because they get stuck in that exact mode that we're talking about of just doing. And it's you've heard that expression many times, the difference between working on your business and in your business, right? It's an old thing. But if you don't fix that, then you never actually own a business. You just own a very demanding job. And that's what most small operators have, is they have a very demanding job. So, and it requires you to be that kind of a person. You're a perfect example. Like
I'm living that.
you were living it. Like you are the personification of scrappy, hands-on, jump in when something needs to get done. You've built this business from nothing, and you've built this incredible team around you, and you're working your butt off. And I give you shit for it all the time. It's like, hey, if you're gonna scale the business, then you have to pull yourself out of the day to day, even though you're incredible at it. But at some point, you can't be the chief bottle washer and clean the toilets and do everything. You got to offload some of that stuff, right?
I figured and like I said, from a guy that's living this every single day, right? There's a lot of jobs to do in a company, right? And so it's like, think about it when you first start your company and you're a solopreneur, right? I got to be the accountant. I got to be accountant. I got to be the sales guy. I got to be the fulfillment guy. I got to be the customer service guy. I got to be everybody guy. I got to be the marketing guy. I got to be the media buyer. I got to be the content guy. I got to do everything, right? So it's like, what are the 5 or 6 most important jobs to get my business off the ground? So if we're using the HVAC guy on the ground, it's going to be sales, it's going to be fulfillment, it's going to be transportation, it's going to be invoicing, it's going to be accountant. Those are the 5 jobs. Now, he's going to systematically, let's say he's starting off with the install, like you're saying, he's going to bring somebody in to be fulfillment, to install, right? And then sooner or later, he might get 1 or 2 people, depending on what his route is. He might get a salesperson, but there's always going to be another job that's been neglected that you need to do, that I need to do, Like, I may not be the best sales guy anymore because I got a freaking brilliant guy in Kyle.
Hmm.
I can't fulfill the way our appointment setters can fulfill. Like, I go to them for advice now on how we should scale and how we should improve our services. So, like, all these main roles have been fulfilled. But you know what I am now? I'm the freaking content guy. I'm
Right.
the guy that's still the accountant, the invoice guy. There's still jobs that I dream of handing off, but you just got to systematically do the same thing over and over again. And I'm hoping that one day I can look back and I'd be like, I'm actually running this company, not fulfilling any role except for the direction of the ship and improving every single one of those roles and responsibilities and departments. And I think that's the CEO days. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll
My
give you a
favorite,
little
my
framework.
favorite,
Oh, sorry.
my
Go ahead.
favorite phrase, my favorite phrase is I'm a CEO BTO. CEO by title only.
Well, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. And I mean, let's face it, if you're a small company, I mean, how meaningful is the phrase CEO? But I would argue that what a CEO does is you're the rudder of the ship.
Hmm.
If you are the engine and the rowing, doing the rowing, then there's nobody steering the ship, right? So you have to be the direction and you can't be the motor and the rudder at the same time, right? And I mean, you can, but it's just going to take you longer to get there. And but admittedly, you'd be the first to tell me this. It's like, yeah, easy for you to say you work for corporate America, you got billions of dollars. When you're trying to run a business, one hire can be make or break your business and can sink you for months on end if you made a bad hire. So it's easy to say and it's harder to do. But I would just argue like it's not about perfection, it's about progress. So like if you're this is a framework that I tell people that I'm working with, right? Is you should try to be working in the direction of a 10-30-60 framework in terms of your
I love
time.
this. Yeah.
Okay. So, and again, it's not going to happen on day one. This might be 5 years down the road when you get to this. But if you're not trending in this direction, then your business is going to keep pulling you back into the weeds and it's going to make it very hard to scale. So the way that I break it down is that 10% is the doing, right? The actual getting your hands dirty, being in the business, and when you move from operator to the architect of your business. So like an operator of a business, that guy in his truck, he wakes up and says, what needs to get done today, right? Whereas the CEO says, how do I build this machine so it doesn't depend on me every day, right? How can I replace myself, right? If your default response to every fire in the business is, I got this, I'm going to do it myself, then you're not a CEO yet, right? But you could be working that direction, right? So I would just say your goal should be very simple. Relentlessly try to decrease your doing ratio. So if your doing is 50%, your ultimate goal is to get down to 10.
Yeah.
And then the next is the 30, and that's the teaching. And that would be like knowledge transfer, and that's where all the efforts and all the things you did at the front end, that starts to leverage into other people. So instead of having to be the hero every time there's a fire, you start building people around you and processes that multiply your business, right? Offloading your knowledge. And we talk about this all the time. We just talked about now, the documentation, right? Having SOPs. This is coaching and mentoring, repeatable systems. Because here's the thing, if it only lives in your head, then you can't scale it, right? So increasing your teaching to doing ratio. And then the last one, when you're truly a CEO, is when 60% of your time is on strategy, on hiring new people, creating standards, oversight, accountability. And that's when you shift from, just acquiring talent to actually sort of molding a team, right? And part of this goes back to how good at hiring you are, right? Because if you and this is where I think a lot of business owners fall flat, is they don't try to hire a talent. they try to cut corners in terms of hiring people because they don't think that people are going to stick around. But if they think about hiring somebody, it's like, how could I hire somebody that could run this company if I'm in a hospital bed? They could run it for me. And I think A-level talent can attract and retain other A-level talent. But if you're always sort of kind of lowering the bar because you figure, oh, they're not going to stick around, or I'm going to be turning over people, then you're always going to be stuck in that mode, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I hit this waypoint recently, just this year, last month, for in March. I think it was probably February or January, where, you know, the new clients, so like a lot of the new clients that are coming on board, I haven't even met, which when that first happened, I was like, whoa, that's a really strange feeling.
I
Right?
bet, because you're used to being so intimate with your customers.
Yeah. So that was one thing. And then there was like anything, you know, any other business, there was trouble onboarding with one client, you know, and there was a moment where it was like, I want my money back and I want this and I want that. And I just kind of like sat back because it was a weird situation where I was like, I can't get in the middle of this because I can't jump in, just like I can't jump in for an invoice. You know what I'm saying? Because it looks bad. And I can't jump in the middle of this when you have capable people handling this. And within 24 hours, it was ironed out, solved, problem, customer kind of like, okay, sorry, my bad. And end up having a great experience. Like,
And let me guess, you never had to touch.
I still have this day, I've never talked to this client. And I'm looking forward to getting on the phone with them in the right scenario, which is hopefully going to be a testimonial or something.
Right.
But it was like something that you don't even realize, like, you know, you're working towards that scenario, but then all of a sudden, like, you take your head up a little bit and you're like, oh, I just reached it. Like that exact scenario. And I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but I was like, wow, this is kind of like, okay, head back down. Let's keep going. So it was really cool. It was a really cool moment. Like you said, there's still a lot of work to do. I'm still doing a handful of jobs, but just to, you know, visit that moment was really, really cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're the personification of what this model looks like, and you're living it. You're right in the middle of it. And what's I always admire about you is, like, as you've grown this business and we've talked and you've told me about some of the things that you've done and learned, is you're not afraid to admit, oh, you know what, I got this part wrong, and I
Oh, yeah.
I course corrected. And I think that's another thing that holds business owners back. I mean, how many business owners do you know that you talk to that are a little, you know, bullheaded and won't change and won't adapt? I'll tell you, so in my previous life, I rubbed shoulders with very big enterprise businesses like Google and Citibank and Accenture.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I got to work very closely with like senior execs in those companies. So I would take every chance I could to pick their brains, particularly around hiring practices and how they attracted and retained good talent and all that kind of stuff. And I remember talking to this one big time Google exec, and I said, you know, tell me who you're looking for. Like, who's your ideal employee? Like, who do you want here working with you? And he said, Jason, I'm telling you, we don't give a rat's ass where you went to school. We don't care what your background is. We don't care what country you're from. We don't care any of that stuff. He said, the number one thing we're looking for in people is adaptability. He said, because everything that you know today, everything that got you to where you are in this stage in your career, in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to have to forget it all and learn all new skills. Right. And he said,
Oh, yeah.
right. And he's like, and by the way, then you're going to have to relearn them all over again because it's going to change so rapidly. And he said that adaptability is the currency of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
That's so right. Yeah.
and it,
We're constantly adapting. We're in a huge, we're like, even in our little business, right? We're constantly adapting just for the fact that, like, every opportunity to improve, adapt, solve a problem now is now's the time to do it, because every problem, you know, if a customer can't do something themselves and we need to build a process around doing it for them, like we've just recently done that this week again for something else, is like, it's less of a compounding problem in the future. So it's like Problems are just like, if problems come by the first time a problem comes by, great. Let's solve this problem for as long as we possibly can, so it doesn't compound and create bigger problems in the future. So it just feels like we're working so hard as such a small company just to create less problems later on, because those problems that we're going to have later on as a bigger company are going to be bigger, are going to be significantly bigger. So it's like the least amount of problems I can carry over from this size to that size, the better off we're going to be.
And it's, who's at most risk of not implementing what we're talking about are companies who have had a measure of success and have made good money, done it a certain way, been really successful. It's not the green startup people that are brand new. Those are probably the ones that are most open and willing to adapt and try new things. And so the guys that have been doing it a certain way for a long time, they're the ones that are going to have the hardest time adapting, because they're like, well, I already figured out the secret sauce. And it's like, no, I hate the recipe's changed, right? Like you have to change, you know. But it's going to be challenging for some of those guys, particularly with what's going on in the world right now. I mean, I looked at the flooring market, just the flooring market alone, in terms of total pie and what the market looks at. So it's about a $10 billion business in North America, Canada, and the US. About $10 billion. So all of Division 9 combined. So that would be commercial, residential, everything, right?
How do you figure? Don't we have a $10 billion company in one of the big three
Well,
manufacturer?
yeah, but that's it's misleading, because that's we're just talking about dollar value of specifications. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so there's other components that drive that $10 billion in revenue that aren't just product related. So it if you look at the overall market from 2 years ago, it's shrunk about 10%.
Oh, wow.
That's it. So like for it to be a recession, it has to be significantly more than that. So some people say, oh, we're in recession. I would argue that we're not. It's a correction, because the
Yeah.
multifamily market has shrunk considerably, and that was probably overinflated. But the market is still huge. There's tons of business to be had out there. It's just the days of people being able to just be order takers and your phone ringing off the hook, and you being able to get away with not proactively doing real business development in your market. Those days are probably over, but at least for the time being. But there's still a ton of business, right? So if you think about it from a market share perspective, if you're a small operator in a town where maybe you have 10 or 15 competitors, the bottom three are probably going to go out of business because they're not going to adapt and change. And the top three are going to acquire more market share because they're not skimping and saving. They're actually investing in infrastructure, better sales processes, a program like yourself, right? Where they see an opportunity to take market share. And then the middle third, they just kind of batten down the hatches. They don't spend any money because they're just trying to survive the next year, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to be in danger of being those bottom three next year because they
Yeah.
didn't take market share.
That's a golden nugget right there, bud. That's really good. Yeah. It's a good way to evaluate yourself and your own market.
Yeah. So, because there's still a lot of business,
Yeah.
you have to work for it now, right?
Yeah. And you think about that top tier, right? So the way I look at it is like the top tier are always the most affected by market conditions. Right. So like look at like even the big national Home Depots and stuff like that. If business is off 15 to 20%, they're going to be off 15 to 20% because they have such a large market share. So you can apply that logic to the local market too. If you are the top player in your market, right, you have to figure out how to pick up that market share for the lower or the middle third to make up for the 10% that are essentially you're going to feel the most. The smallest guy is not going to feel that 10% as much as the biggest guy.
Well, if you go back through history of,
Correct me if I'm wrong.
no, you're right.
No, and I mean it. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that's the way my logic looks at.
If you go back and look at the history of down markets and up markets, you look at companies that were the most successful, they made their fortunes in down markets. because they reinvested in their business. They took market share as opposed to just trying to survive the storm. They saw it as an opportunity for growth,
Yeah.
right? And like when the market, like if you go back 3 years and the market was just going crazy, nobody had time to really build their business. They were just they were just churning, right, and selling product. And salespeople could get lazy because they didn't really have to business develop. They could just fulfill orders and answer the phone, right? And so now when you're in a down market, if you develop those skills and those muscles and that skill set now, when the market starts coming back, because it will, you're going to be way better positioned than the company that fired 3 guys and went down to 1 salesperson because they were afraid of what the market might bear, right? It's like fortunes are made in down economies.
Yeah.
Look at the Rockefellers. They bought up everything in the Great Depression. Then they owned half the country.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. When I entered home services, when I went to work for Mohawk, it was 2008.
Wow.
So we're talking about, a little bit more than the correction, right? I think business was off like 42 or 43% that year.
Didn't you come into the business on the residential side?
On the residential side,
Yeah.
And so business being off that much, that's the only thing. Actually, all of those comes full circle, bud, right? The only way that I was able to maintain my business, right? Well, everybody was off by 40 to 50%, was just by focusing on market share. Who are the players? Where is the business happening? And focus on taking market share inside those accounts. That was the only way I was able to maintain my business. And, through those years, we were actually flat rather than be down 40% in that market.
Which, by the way, economists would say you actually grew, even if you stay flat. If the economy goes down, if you do the math, you actually gained market share just by staying flat.
Yeah.
If you do the math, right?
Yeah, there you go. I'll take that.
Right.
I'm not an economist, but sure.
Yeah. It's and now I lost my thought, but no, you couldn't be more right. It's the time to grow and the time to stretch your muscles is now, and we'll see how customers respond. Like you probably have customers right now that are calling you or concerned about what's happening and what's the easiest thing to cut from their budget, right?
Yeah.
Marketing spend is usually the thing that kind of gets affected first.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And I would say that, hey, if you're going to spend the money on marketing, if you want to, if you can double your close rate on your sales, and you could double your qualified appointment rate on the same ad spend, that's where we live, right? That's where I think so much is lost. Like the first thing is like, hey, we got to cut this, but like that just affects the business all the way down. And let's do this. This is a good call today. Let's go through.
Little doom and gloomy though.
What's that?
It feels a little doom and gloomy.
What? I think it's good. I wanted to highlight because we had a few really good golden nuggets in here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back and I'd like to kind of touch on a couple of the golden nuggets. Like let's revisit really quick on, hey, what should you do between that $500 and $1 million? Just really loose estimate of where somebody is in their business to get that first hire or second hire. Like where should you look at that? Let's talk about that for a second. Pull out that golden nugget. You provided a ratio that I think was really valuable of how you're looking at your time. But yeah, grab one of those nuggets. Let's elaborate on it real quick and.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the 10-30-60, obviously,
that one, yeah.
that is aspirational for a lot of businesses in that size.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can't be that way out of the gate, and maybe even for your first 5 years of business. But the goal should be the target. That should be what you're working towards. If you want to scale your business, if you want to eventually have your business run without you. And here's something that we didn't talk about. If the ultimate goal for a home services business is an exit at some point.
Yeah.
Right? Is that fair?
That's a whole podcast in itself.
Right? So if that's the ultimate goal, maybe you give it to your kids to take over. Maybe if you want it to be a sellable business at some point.
Mm-hmm.
if your business is so interdependent on you as the individual operator, it is not a sellable asset, because the minute you extract you from the equation, your business value drops significantly. So to me, that should be your ultimate goal. And even if you never sell it, it should be a sellable asset. That ability should exist. And so if you're not working towards that at some point, then you're kind of missing the whole idea of why these businesses are so great and so valuable. Yeah, these small owner operator businesses, they can be very valuable as an asset.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And then the other thing I think is important to kind of recap on would be like, hey, what should you do next? Right? Evaluate your superpower. What do you do great? What do you love to do? What's not work for you inside your company? That's the last thing you should let go. Right? For me, that was sales. I really love sales. That was one of the last things I let go. So if you're thinking about hiring, what's that next move? Like, do you hate answering the phone? Do you hate calling people back? Are you really bad at follow up? Are you really bad at organization? Maybe a lead management company like us is in the cards for you, because that could change everything for you. Are you really bad? Not bad, but do you hate the fulfillment? Do you hate getting stuck on the job site when you know you have a business to run? Maybe that's your first hire, somebody to install whatever your skill and discipline is. Or you hate the books. Is your books a mess?
Oh,
That person right there could save you a lot of money. It's like that should be. So hire out your worst, keep your best. That's your first move, right? Document your process if you have one. If you don't have one at all and it's just an absolute soup sandwich, anybody that you hire that loves that job is going to be better than you. Have them help you build a process. But if you're doing a decent job and it got you to your first million or less or whatever you're at right now, then document what got you there so you have something to approve day one when you bring somebody in.
Oh, you're so right. Man, you're making me be nostalgic now. I remember my first two businesses that I ran in my early 20s. I was so reticent to give up anything and because I didn't want to spend any money. So I was like, I'll do my own books. I'll do my own bookkeeping. And I sucked at it. And I made such a mess of the books because it's not my thing. And it wasn't when I finally let that go and brought in a pro. It was like, oh my God, I wish I should have done this years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Because it freed me up, exactly what you're saying. It freed me up to actually do the things that I am world class at, which that is.
I have some friends that and I have to know every dollar in the business, like how we're doing, the state of like the week, the month, the day. Like it's hard for me. And I've been in a situation where I didn't know what was coming in and what was going out. Right. And that was years ago. But like I have friends that are running companies year over year, month over month, that don't even understand what that snapshot looks like. And I don't even understand how you cannot get an idea of where you are, where you want to go when you have no idea where you are for the month or the year or the day. It's pretty wild. So getting on top of those numbers is probably really important if you're not on your books. I would argue, yeah.
For sure.
Hard to make decisions if you don't know what the cost of the decision.
Yeah. Well, man, this was great. I think for podcast number 2, we did all right.
Yep, podcast number 2. I actually got this titled up here. Podcast 2. I called this one Scaling is Hard.
Man, I think we painted a little bit of, I don't know, was it a negative picture? Just more realistic, I think. But
yeah, I think it's real stuff, man. It's like, I think it needs to be, because I think people romanticize entrepreneurship.
Good point.
And I don't think it needs to be romanticized, because somebody that is falsely getting into something, it's gonna have a rude awakening, because let's just figure, entrepreneurship is painful. You have to be able to be uncomfortable, make painful decisions, live in a vice, know that, one big decision could ruin you. It's like, if you're not comfortable shouldering that responsibility, then it's not it's not something that you should consider. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
And understand that the whole thing could blow up tomorrow and you might have to start over. And how many of us have started ventures where we made mistakes and screwed up and it cost us, and we had to learn from the mistake and then do it all over again, right?
It's a game of survival. Right? The people that survive the longest make it. All right, man, let's do this again in a week or two. Hopefully in a week. I know we've had crazy busy schedules, but I really love chatting with you, man. You're a brilliant man and a great friend of mine. And there's a future in this for together. Even if we're the only two watching it, we're going to get better.
We can't get any worse.
All right, brother. Thanks
All right.
again. We'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
Ciao.